It begins in 356 BCE in the ancient city of Pella, in the kingdom of Macedonia. The world then was not yet Greek, not yet Roman. It was a patchwork of small kingdoms, empires, and tribes. Macedonia was seen as a rough, half-civilized land on the northern fringes of Greece. But its king, Philip II, was no barbarian. He was a military genius, a man who turned Macedonia into a powerful force by reforming its army, introducing the deadly phalanx, a wall of spears that would dominate battlefields for decades. Into this world Alexander was born, son of Philip and Olympias, a queen whose fierce will and strange mysticism shaped her son's destiny. From the very beginning, he was told that he was different. His mother whispered to him that he was descended from Achilles, the greatest of all Greek heroes, and from Zeus himself. His father, on the other hand, expected him to rule the world. Caught between myth and expectation, Alexander grew up believing that greatness was not just possible, it was inevitable. He was educated by the philosopher Aristotle, one of the greatest minds in history. Under his guidance, Alexander studied philosophy, science, politics, and literature. He learned to love Homer's Iliad, the story of the Trojan War, and carried a copy of it with him wherever he went. To him, Achilles was not just a hero, he was a model. He dreamed of glory, of honor, of immortality through conquest. By the time Alexander was a teenager, he was already showing signs of extraordinary leadership. At just 16, while his father was away at war, he crushed a rebellion and founded a city named Alexandropolis. At 18, he commanded a cavalry unit at the Battle of Chaeronea, where he helped his father defeat the combined forces of Athens and Thebes. His courage, his speed, his ability to inspire men. It was all there even then. But greatness often comes with tragedy. When Alexander was 20, his father Philip was assassinated, stabbed to death during a wedding celebration. Whether Olympias or Alexander himself had a hand in it remains one of history's mysteries. What is certain is that within days, Alexander seized the throne. The young king, barely out of adolescence, now ruled Macedonia. And soon he would rule much more. The Greek world, however, was not eager to accept him. Many cities rebelled, thinking the boy king could not hold power. But Alexander acted with brutal swiftness. He marched south, crushed the revolts, and destroyed the city of Thebes as an example. Over 6,000 were killed. The city leveled. The message was clear. Alexander was not his father's shadow. He was something far more dangerous. With Greece subdued, he turned his gaze eastward, to the vast Persian Empire, ruled by Darius III. For over 2 centuries, Persia had been the greatest empire the world had ever known, stretching from Egypt to India. To challenge it seemed madness. But Alexander saw it as destiny. In 334 BCE, with just over 40,000 men, he crossed the Hellespont, the narrow strait separating Europe and Asia, and declared himself avenger of Greece and liberator of the East. He had begun his campaign to conquer the known world. The first test came at the Battle of Granicus. Outnumbered and facing the elite Persian cavalry, Alexander led a direct charge across the river, his spear flashing in the sun. He nearly died that day, saved only by the quick action of one of his generals. But his courage inspired his men. The Persians were crushed. The legend of Alexander was born. City after city fell before him, in Asia Minor, in Syria, in Phoenicia. At every turn, Alexander's strategy, speed, and sheer audacity overwhelmed his enemies. Then came one of his greatest victories, the Battle of Issus in 333 BCE. Facing Darius himself, Alexander once again led from the front, breaking through the Persian center and sending the great king fleeing in panic. The unimaginable had happened. The young Macedonian had defeated the ruler of the largest empire on earth. After Issus, Alexander turned south to conquer Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator. The priests there hailed him as the son of Amun, the god of the sun. At the oasis of Siwa, they told him he was indeed divine, a child of Zeus Ammon. Whether Alexander truly believed this or simply used it as propaganda, it changed how he saw himself. From this moment on, he was not just a conqueror, he was a man convinced of his own godhood. In Egypt, he founded a city that would bear his name, Alexandria, destined to become one of the greatest cities of the ancient world, a center of knowledge and culture for centuries to come. But even as he built, Alexander's mind was fixed on one goal, the heart of Persia. In 331 BCE, the two greatest armies of the age met on the plains of Gaugamela. Darius's forces numbered in the hundreds of thousands with war elephants, chariots, and cavalry stretching across the horizon. Alexander's army was smaller, but disciplined, loyal and brilliantly led. With a feigned retreat and a lightning-fast cavalry assault, he broke through the Persian lines, sending Darius fleeing once more. This battle shattered the Persian Empire. Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, the jewels of the East, all fell into Alexander's hands. The wealth of centuries was now his. When he entered Persepolis, the Persian capital, he was hailed as King of Asia. Yet victory brought not peace, but transformation. Somewhere amid the burning palaces of Persepolis, which he ordered destroyed, perhaps in a drunken act of vengeance, Alexander began to change. No longer the hero of Greece, he started adopting Persian customs, dressing in their robes, marrying their princesses, and demanding his men bow before him as a living god. Some of his soldiers whispered that their king had gone mad with power. Still, his ambition had no limits. He pursued Darius across the deserts of Central Asia, only to find the great king murdered by his own men. But Alexander would not stop. He marched further east, through mountains and wilderness, through lands no Greek had ever seen. He founded cities, crushed rebellions, and fought endless battles. In Bactria, he married Roxana, a local princess, perhaps for love, perhaps for alliance. In India, he faced King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes River, a fierce struggle against elephants and monsoon rains. Even after victory, his army refused to go further. After 8 years of conquest, thousands of miles from home, his soldiers finally said no. They wanted to return. Alexander wept, not for the dead, but because there were no more worlds left to conquer. Reluctantly, he turned back. On the journey home, disaster struck. Many of his men perished crossing the Gedrosian desert. When he finally reached Babylon, Alexander was only 32. A living legend, ruler of an empire stretching from Greece to India. Yet his mind was restless. He began planning new campaigns, to Arabia, to the edges of Africa. But fate had other plans. In June of 323 BCE, after a night of heavy drinking, Alexander fell ill. Fever gripped him. For days he lay speechless, surrounded by his generals, unable to speak or move. When his men asked who should inherit his empire, he whispered only, "To the strongest." Then he was gone. The world he left behind fell into chaos. His generals, the Diadochi, divided the empire among themselves, turning it into a series of rival kingdoms. His dream of a unified world under one ruler died with him. Yet his legacy was eternal. Greek language, art, and ideas spread across Asia, blending with Eastern cultures to form what we now call the Hellenistic world. Alexandria became a beacon of knowledge. His campaigns reshaped history itself. But the man, the real Alexander, remains a paradox. Was he a hero or a tyrant, a visionary or a madman? He united East and West, yet left rivers of blood behind him. He sought immortality and achieved it, but at the cost of everything human. Perhaps that is the true tragedy of Alexander the Great. He conquered the world but could not conquer himself. More than 2,000 years have passed since his death, yet his name still commands awe. His tactics are studied in military academies. His charisma is admired by leaders and scholars alike. His story, though ancient, speaks to something timeless, the unending human hunger for greatness, for discovery, for meaning. So what does Alexander's life teach us? That ambition can move mountains, but unchecked, it can also destroy worlds. That genius can lead men to glory, or madness. That a single dream, pursued without limit, can reshape history forever. But most of all, Alexander's story reminds us that each of us holds within us a spark of greatness, the power to change our world, to challenge limits, to leave a legacy that outlives us. We may not conquer empires, but we can conquer ignorance, fear, and apathy. We can build, learn, and lead. So today, let Alexander's journey be more than history. Let it be a call to rise, to think boldly, to dare greatly. The world will always belong to those who believe, as he did, that destiny favors the brave. The question is, what will you do with your world?